everyone. It's Brandy from Brandy Burrow Astrology, back with Ellie Adams from Saturn Season Astrology and YouTube channel Let's F with Astrology. Welcome back, Ellie.
Thank you for having me back.
Yeah, this is kind of a part two, like we like to do. We like to kind of have themes on what we're recording, and head over to Ellie's channel. She did a part one on the Waco siege, and this is a follow-up with the Oklahoma City bombing because they were connected.
Yes, McVeigh was at the Waco siege, and he said that one of the reasons that he did Oklahoma City was because of the Waco siege and Ruby Ridge. That's another one of the reasons that,
started with Ruby Ridge and then Waco, and he was a white supremacist. He's a disgusting human being.
Yes.
Really don't want to get into a whole lot about his beliefs because I don't want to share them, and
because fuck him.
Yeah. No need in spreading any of that. And it's kind of interesting. Ellie is originally from Texas. I'm originally from Oklahoma. So I was like, let me take the Oklahoma City bombing, and she took Waco. So I actually lived in Oklahoma when this happened. I lived in the Tulsa area, but it's only about an hour and a half away from Oklahoma City, so still pretty close to home.
Yep, just down I-44.
Yes, down I-44. That's right, and it was a horrible day. But we're going to look at the astrology of it and just kind of see what's going on in the astrology, just look at the forensics of it, see what the planets are representing, and make this an astrology lesson.
Yes.
All right. With that said, so I guess maybe before I post the chart, so the day that Waco, like all the victims died in that fire, I don't even know what you want to call it, like the
clusterfuck.
The day it all went down and and the victim, everyone died. That was April 19th, 1993. Oklahoma City the bombing was done on the anniversary 2 years later on April 19th, 1995. So there's a connection with those dates. He picked that date as an anniversary. So with that being said, let's look at the chart when it happens. All right. Can you see that Oklahoma City bombing?
I can. And I also want to point out the Georgia Guidestones one that we just did for my channel.
Yes.
The rising for that chart was like 9 degrees Gemini. We have another Gemini rising with a fucking explosion.
Right. No, when I saw this, I'm like, I sat there for seconds. I was like, I've seen this chart. And then I was like, oh yeah, yes, you're right.
I thought that was yeah.
Yeah, and this is a Gemini rising chart. It makes sense when you have multiple victims. It's common to see Gemini as one of the signs, a double-bodied sign on the ascendant for the victims there. Ruled by Mercury in the 12th house of losses.
Yep.
And also co-ruled by the moon in Sagittarius in the 7th.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Go for it, Ellie.
That fucking moon. That fucking moon conjunct the galactic center.
I knew you were gonna take it there. Take it.
It just weird shit.
I'm going for, oh gosh, it's only been like what, 4 days since we recorded Georgia Guidestones, but I'm trying to remember. It had something going on with that too.
I want to say that I have it.
Sorry, I have to know because I'm like, I remember we were talking about it.
I have it. I also want to point out, though, real quick, that Jupiter is also conjunct the Great Attractor, which kind of intensifies beliefs, if you will, of the perpetrator. Yeah. Also the ruler of the 7th house, perpetrator. The beliefs are
philosophies and in play.
Yes, very, 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 very pronounced. Also, would be conjunct the North Node in the siege ending chart. Interesting too.
Yeah,
both those charts also have Jupiter retrograde as well.
Yes, they do. Yeah, and these are both these events are connected, but these are also have a commonality in people like causing chaos for their beliefs or their philosophies, or, you know, what they think is truth. I don't know. It's just crazy.
Yes. Yes, exactly. And for the guide stones, I'm looking at it.
And it was
That,
just last year. It was July of last year. You guys
that
go watch that episode because it's really good. It's on Ellie's channel.
yeah, it's interesting. It's also weird shit. As far as the GC goes, though, that
Am I making that up?
Mercury. No, well, that Mercury is close to like the anti-center.
Maybe that's what we were discussing. I swear we were talking about something.
Or was it with the submarine? No, it was with the submarine.
We recorded that the same night. So yeah.
I think it was with the submarine, the blind spots.
The implosion. Yes. Yeah. Okay. It's coming back to me. I know. Poor Ellie. If I sleep, I completely forget like what happened. Like it's a new day. And
well, I'm not sure how much better I am. I've got to fucking let me look it up.
But yeah, Galactic Center here with that moon. Yeah, that's I knew you were gonna see it. Love it. Love it.
Yeah, because it's just like bam, it's right there, and it makes it also, you know, it's like the victims, right? The moon co-rules the chart, so it's like even though they were on their own turf, it's like they were on his turf.
Yeah.
Or he made it his turf, and that kind of feels like the weirdness going on here. Like it wasn't, but he made it his. Like he made it his turf. So does that make sense?
It does. I'm trying to figure out if I'm stretching this too much, but that, you know, it was his car, or not his car, a truck he rented.
Yes.
He parks
yeah, the right
building, and that's kind of, even though it's rented, I'm looking at that like it's his property. So I could.
Well,
you know,
no, I see what you're saying because he rented it. I mean, it was in his name or whatever name. I don't know if he used his own name, but
he used a fake name. He used a fake name. Yeah. But you know, that could be it's essentially his property. I mean, he went and got it.
Yeah.
You know, he's disgusting. He parked it right underneath the daycare, or right by the daycare entrance, and
that is one of the saddest fucking parts of that whole memorial to that particular area.
Yeah, and that's why this video is probably going to be short, and we're just doing the astrology. It just hits too close to home. It brings up too much for me. So I'm trying. Yeah, it's terrible. There is a memorial there now, and me and Ellie were talking about that before we recorded about how heavy that memorial is, but such a beautiful memorial to the victims.
It is. I do recommend. Yeah, I mean, when I lived in Norman, Oklahoma for a short period of time, for a couple years, and that was one of the very first things I did when I moved there, was go to the memorial. Really sad, but really worth going to. Really.
Yeah, pay your respects, and yeah, absolutely. I remember we visited the area probably 4 months after this happened. And I just remember all like the nearby buildings having boarded windows. I mean, it did massive destruction, not just only the Alfred Murrah building, but buildings nearby had horrible damage. Some were destroyed. I mean, put people out of their homes, people who were living close by. It affected a lot of people.
Yes. Yeah. And he had a bunch of different buildings a bunch of different ones on his radar. He chose that one because it had the most. He was going after, just for anybody watching that doesn't know, he was going after specifically the FBI, the ATF, and the DEA. And he was looking for a building that had all three. I don't believe the Murrah building had DEA, but I know it had ATF and FBI.
Yeah, it had a lot of federal agents, and he scoped Tulsa. He scoped a lot of cities. And ended up there. Yeah, it's here on this chart we also have that 29-degree sun, of course, like we did on the Waco, because it's April 19th again. yeah, the anaretic degree, such a intense degree, it's like I don't want to say it makes sense. It makes sense though, astrologically, why you would get 29 degrees popping up with these sorts of events for sure.
Yes. It does. It really does.
Yeah. What stood out to you about this chart? I mean, anything that we haven't discussed yet, or?
Well, the big ass thing was that Jupiter conjunct the great attractor and that moon conjunct the galactic. Those two stood out, especially with the thing with the Waco chart with that north node and the siege ending chart conjunct the great attractor. And then that Jupiter, right? I don't know. It just kind of,
it's pretty significant.
yes, it definitely shows a tie. Like, if you had questions if McVeigh actually was doing this because of those reasons, because of I'm inclined to believe that he did that, yeah, along with other crazy shit, but
absolutely. And he did this essentially in protest to what happened with Waco, Ruby Ridge, and we got Pluto in 6th house. And we were actually just discussing that in your video on Waco. And I'm like, you get 6th house elements, and especially in Pluto, that is kind of an area where you find protest, or at least a protest for everyday rights for people, and yeah, Pluto's sitting here in this chart in the 6th house. So definitely reflects him protesting. It's irrational, but it reflects where he's at.
It's very young. It's at that 0, 0. It's at 0 degrees Sagittarius. Very, very young.
Very young. The 0 degrees of signs can be really strong.
Strong as fuck.
Yeah, because it's like, I'm excited. I'm in this new sign. I'm ready to like start something. I got this energy, this new fresh energy.
Yep.
So like 0 degrees and 29 degrees are both just very strong points of a zodiac, in any sign.
Absolutely.
What's interesting? We got Mars in the 3rd house here, which we saw at the beginning of Waco, at the beginning of the February 28th Waco chart.
Except in this one, we have it in Leo.
We have it in Leo,
which makes it a little less fucked.
Makes it arrogant to me. Like, and I'm not saying forensically, not natally, guys. Natally, Mars and Leo.
But I know what you're saying. I get what you're saying.
Forensically, it feels arrogant to me. Like things need to, I don't know, agree with
me.
And
you've got it trine Jupiter too.
Yeah.
which might expand on this, right?
It's like a big amplifier. Yeah, expands it. It's like, let's take it and stretch it and make it even bigger. Yeah. Did you like that?
Yes, I did.
It's late. You guys can't tell. This is late night edition. Brandy fades after 9 p.m. and it's 10:42.
Yeah, it's like late night edition. The uncut edition. No, I'm just playing.
It's fun. It's fun. But I don't know. Did I discuss Neptune in the 8th? That's interesting. And a sign of like government in Capricorn, right? And in the 8th house of death. And we got Neptune, which is also beliefs. To me, Neptune usually represents more fucked beliefs. I'm going to use your word, the F word there. It can.
Use my word.
Neptune can be delusional.
Yeah. It certainly, yes. And we also have that Saturn, the ruler of the 8th and little Pisces.
In Pisces, yeah. It's so interesting when you get Saturn in Pisces, because you got Saturn, a planet with boundaries, and a sign with no boundaries.
It's like the dissolving of them.
Yeah. Which we have right now going on, interestingly. We got Saturn in Pisces right now.
We do. We also have the
we got a lot going on right now.
Also, I was gonna say, like Pluto just moved back into Capricorn, right? But it had just entered I don't know, just entered 0 degrees Aquarius. Now it's retrograde back in Capricorn, but there are a few things that are similar,
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. What's interesting, we're talking about Saturn, is right there pretty close. I can't do the math. We'll say about 6 degrees from Venus. I was trying to do 5 degrees in so many minutes, but I can't calculate that fast. Right there with Venus, with an exalted Venus. What do you make of that, being in that 11th house?
Okay, I feel like he motherfucker, I think thought he was doing something good. I really do. Pisces is like universal love, universal goodness. Motherfucker thought he was doing some like rationally, who the fuck would actually think this was good? But I think I don't know. It just feels like some fuckery there with that.
It's definitely some fuckery in the 11th house of like such a humanitarian. I see where you're going with that, because it's like, yeah, it's totally fucked. The guy thinks he's doing something for humanity, I think.
Yes, I do. I think he actually,
he was wrong on, but we're talking about these 0-degree planets, kind of going back to that conversation. You see Uranus and Aquarius at 0 degrees. Uranus in its home sign, a strong Uranus at 0 in the 9th house.
Yep.
Beliefs, philosophies, like
weird ones.
And when it's kind of crazy, I'm going to go to natal astrology for a minute. Like when you see the 9th house in Aquarius, it's usually an individual who doesn't fully lock into one belief, or, is very open-minded. Kind of weird on, for that placement, that Uranus, but it's weird. I think it's taking the sign of Aquarius, like a kind of a weird belief or something that's very different, unconventional.
It's also squaring those fucking nodes.
Those nodes, I know. Yeah. Here's
what?
I don't know if I want to go. I know. I'm like, I don't know how much I want to go into this guy. So he got the death penalty, of course. He was caught like 90 minutes after this because fucker was driving a car without a license plate and got pulled over, and they found
fucker was stupid.
Firearm, which is great, because he got caught quickly. Anyway, he's on, he gets a death penalty. He actually asks to be put to death. I can't remember what year. Oh, it was a couple months before 9/11. It was in 2001.
It was, because I remember I was very, very, very sick the day that he died. Very, very, very sick. And I remember I remember this vividly, having my radio on in my room, and they mentioned that he had been executed.
Yes.
And I remember thinking, I don't know why the hell that stands out, but it does.
Yeah. He asked to stop his appeals and ask the courts to allow his execution, which had kind of different responses from people. A lot of people were upset that he was allowed to choose when he died. Some wanted him to sit on death row and be miserable.
I gotta say, it would have been really, Nichols, who also was involved in this, is at that fucking Supermax in Colorado, which would be like a hellhole to be in.
Yeah.
I almost feel like it would have been more of a punishment to put his ass there.
Yeah. And that, some people wanted, they were upset that he got to choose, but you can choose not to appeal and take a punishment. But sorry, I digress. Where I was going with, this North Node in a sign of death of Scorpio, I don't know. I might be stretching this, but it kind of reminds me of, it kind of makes me think of him getting to choose when he dies, Oh,
I see what you're saying about that.
That's stretching it maybe a smidge, but it's in that 6th house protest,
Okay, but what about this? Like, also one of the rulers of that North Node is that Mars in Leo, right?
Yeah.
There's kind of an arrogance about that.
Yeah. Like the world revolving around Mars here, right? Like, yeah. Now I didn't check out the fixed stars. I'm just going to do a quick sweep.
Oh, sure.
We'll start with the, the victim ruler, Mercury, 4 degrees, Taurus, and I have we have the list of the major fixed stars.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And we do have a 3 degrees and 49-minute Taurus fixed star, pretty close. Violence, accidents, injury, danger.
That fits.
That fits. I want to see what's going on with the perpetrator here.
There's not, she didn't have the great attractor in here or anything around 14 Sagittarius. That 8 though might. Yeah, it's near that Antares, Antares, the heart of the Scorpion, Watcher of the West, Spirit of Adventure, obstinacy, injuries to eyes, honor, sudden loss, stubborn, suspicious, violent.
Yeah, and I've been asked what we look at. We look at Criminal Astrology Volume 1 by Kirsty McIntosh. She wrote a really cool criminal astrology book. She has a list of some fixed stars in here.
And sometimes she leaves comments.
She does. I love it when she checks it out. Like, I love her. Like,
Yeah.
She got me into this, and she's amazing. She's been doing this for a long time, and yeah, send her some good vibes. She's awesome. But yeah, do we want to look? Is there anything else you want to pull out of this chart?
No, I think I'm good. I'm good.
Okay. I want to pull out one other thing about this chart that's lines up astrologically. You got, of course, you know, the ascendant, the victims being ruled by Mercury. The 5th house of children also ruled by Mercury. And, you know, being that the daycare was targeted and multiple children were killed, just showing that it's sharing that same chart ruler, those victims, and it's the astrology is pulling in and referencing the children as well.
Yeah, it is. Okay. It is.
And let's look at this
Buckhead chart.
Yeah, exactly what I was going to call him.
Well, I did it for you.
Thank you. Thank you. Timothy McVeigh. I actually have a birth time on him, thanks to astro.com. He's a Gemini rising.
Yeah, sure is.
I'm humiliated to share any of my big 3 with this guy. But yeah, Gemini rising. You look at his chart ruler, Mercury in the 12th house of loss, and Neptune ruled house. You know, it's also imprisonment. I mean, the man did have to sit in prison for a bit, and he's got Mars and Taurus, and I find that interesting. Now I have Mars and Taurus, so you know, I don't have anything in common with this guy. That's not where I'm going. I just want to like say, if you have Mars and Taurus in your natal chart, I'm not putting you down. But Mars and Taurus is kind of it's a slow burning anger when you're mad about something. Usually you what's that?
It's also trying that Pluto.
Yeah. It's so in his case, looking at this, you know, I imagine this is someone who's building up, building. It's a very stubborn energy. It's not necessarily quick to react, but it will at some point when you hit a breaking point, when you know.
Yeah.
Slow burning anger. But yeah, his is trying that Pluto. So definitely not in control of his temper in his anger.
No, yeah.
Doesn't have good way, you know, and it's in the 12th house. It's very suppressed.
Yeah, I was gonna say he probably didn't really, like, he knew he was pissed about things, but maybe didn't know how pissed.
Yeah, I think that's right. And he's got the sun in that 12. He's got a 12th house sun. I don't know a lot of his background. I know I probably should have done some research for this, but it makes me wonder if he lacked that good fatherly influence or something's weird there, you know, because
yeah. Well, no, I mean, I'm a sun in the 12th house person, and my dad bounced when I was like 6. So I get what you.
Yeah, I mean, you see individuals that either that's happened or sometimes their dad is around and they're just not emotionally available. Sometimes it's an actual death of a father, you know, at an early age, or there's just something going on usually.
Yeah, they're probably there probably was something.
Yeah. He's got,
Look
yeah.
at
Go
look
ahead.
at all that shit conjunct the North Node.
Venus, especially.
Uh-huh.
Like exact conjunction, which, you know, on the North Node, which means it's opposite of the South Node.
Uh-huh.
And generally speaking, let me kind of think this out for a second. You know, when you have a South Node in Libra and a North Node in Aries, there's something about finding your independence in life. There's a karmic direction there. But this is in the 11th house. So this is, it's kind of complicated because, like, while finding independence, you're gravitating towards a group of people or groupthink or
could you be thinking that you are giving groups their independence?
yeah, you're a warrior because you got this Aries in 11th house. It's very warrior type spirit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, that's right by Venus though. I don't know where I want to go with that. Yeah, I'm thinking of Stephen Forrest, kind of his explanations of stuff like this. This would, in his interpretation, would reveal like a past life and maybe a relationship or a female having very karmic things. I don't know how this applies in his life. Like I said, I haven't done a whole lot of personal research on him.
Or maybe, yeah, like from a uh-huh.
Or maybe not having harmony in the past life and trying to find that. I mean, definitely the wrong direction.
Yeah, kind of like that was out of reach for some reason, from a little further out of reach, since it's opposite its ruler, or what it rules. I mean, sorry.
Mm-hmm. And, you know, Aries is it can be an angry sign, you know, there's some kind of anger fueling this, you know, yeah, it's interesting with Venus there. Or is this, you know, for people in general, you know, justice, it can be justice, you know, Venus rules Libra, a sign of justice.
Yeah. I see. I don't know how I want to word this.
Yeah. It's hard when you pull an evolutionary.
Well, I feel like he came here to play the role that he played. As shitty as that sounds.
He could have been a warrior for people's rights. He could have
Yes.
been a damn good attorney, maybe. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, absolutely. It could have
used it for good.
Yeah. But I do, yeah.
Yeah, I see what you're saying though.
But I want to be careful how I say that.
Well, you know, Aries also rules war.
Yes. Yes, it does.
And, you know, you have a North Node in Aries here. And I'm trying to be careful too, because I'm not saying because you have a North Node in Aries, you're supposed to start war. You know,
Yeah, I have a North Node in Aries.
What's that?
I have a North Node in Aries.
You're not starting war, you know?
No.
Yeah. But it's,
no.
You know, it can be used in good productive ways. You know, this shit's just gone awry, you know, with Timothy McVeigh.
Yeah, it really, yeah. And sometimes even with the North Node Aries, you could be looking at doing things that well, it's like, you know, taking action, right? Learning how to take action, not sit on the fence, but take action. Along with you know, maybe even doing things that are kind of scary.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, this could have, you know, he could have done this. This could have been utilized in a whole other way.
Oh yeah, some individuals with a, you know, North Node and Aries in the 11th house, they go to the military and they are very productive in that role. I think he was military, wasn't he?
I believe he was. I think he was. Yeah, I think he Gulf War. I think.
Yes, you're right. Yes. Yeah. So yeah, the moon in Pisces. Wow, that's such an emotional moon.
Opposite Pluto.
This is one of these charts where it kind of okay, hear me out on this thought. Like, don't just stop right where it kind of reminds me when you look at Hitler's chart. I know this is the part where I'm like, don't stop, hear me out. If you didn't know who Hitler was and you look at his birth chart, you might actually think he's a very charming, good-hearted individual, but you have to kind of go deep within the nodes and you start finding where he took the energy and went a different direction with it. This reminds me of the same thing. Like, we didn't know who this was. You could be like, oh, this person is very humanitarian, has a moon in Pisces, but you have to kind of see which ways you can take these energies.
Yeah. Yes.
Does that make sense where I'm going?
Yes. Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. It's frustrating to me to look at this chart because I'm like, this person could have done
so many other things.
Yes. And been a productive citizen, you know, but no. So, any final thoughts about this chart, Ellie?
No, I think I'm pretty good.
Yeah, it is interesting that the house lineup is the same as the time of the bombing. You know, it's also a Gemini rising chart, so
yes,
I'll put that in there. But
also interesting about that, I think he was actually, I can't remember if it was earlier or later that he was originally going to do the bombing. I want to say it was later and he couldn't hold his wad, so he did it earlier. I could be wrong about that,
later
but it's
in the
interesting.
day.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was going to do it, I think, around lunchtime, around 11, I believe.
But he couldn't, you know, he couldn't hold his wad, so he did it earlier. And it happened to line up with, you know, like his rising. That is interesting.
Yeah, good point. Yeah. So there you have it, Oklahoma City bombing forensics. Sorry, I know I kind of kept it short and kind of, yeah, but it's a tough one, I think.
It is. And it's like one of those things you don't want to, I mean, the dude's such a fuck face, like who really wants to, you know.
Yeah. Good ending thoughts. Dude is a fuck face. Well, that's
dude is a fuck face. I'm so eloquent.
Perfect. But you know, beautifully describes it. Yeah, it's yeah, perfect ending point. Ellie, thank you so much for joining me on this for part 2. You guys go to Ellie's channel, Let's F with Astrology, to see the Waco siege charts. And Ellie, tell everyone where they can find you for readings and whatever they need.
Whatever they need. Whatever you need.
Whatever you need.
Whatever
Astrologically.
Okay, so you can find me on YouTube at Let's F with Astrology. You can find me at my website, SaturnSeason.com. You can find me on Instagram at SaturnSeasonAstrology. And Brandy, where can you be found?
Well, I can be found at brandyburrowastrology.com and Brandy Burrow Astrology on YouTube and Instagram. Awesome. Well, thanks, Ellie.
Thank you for having me.
Me again here in the next couple weeks, and we'll do
anytime.
All right. Thanks everyone for watching.